I did not expect you here. Were you following me? Wasn't there something else you were to do? It is curious that our paths should cross then. Perhaps the All-Mother has ordained so. Nobody, yet. Order is gone. So many knights missing. Gaheris tries his best in the borough. Bors has gone to the western farmholds to stop the war. Galahad is presumed dead since he abandoned the Round Table. But they don't have his insignia, so they can't name his descendant. And I'm stuck here, of all places. Please promise that should I fall, and I will fall sooner than later, you will do everything in your power to save this damned island. I'll see you at the farmhold. Please make haste with your search. No. What you're doing for Kuanak now is far more important than my fate. Thank you for offering this, though. This was a knightly thing to say.
You approach the guardian menhir of Kuanak with the relic. Looking at its cracked surface, you start to wonder whether it will be enough. As you prepare to lay the offering, you feel an imposing presence behind you. The maimed knight is standing just a few paces back, wrapped in his tattered cloak, hood obscuring his face. You never heard his footsteps. The flames begin to consume your relic, and you experience a familiar feeling. Things once again seem to come into focus as the menhir's protective power surges fast. Perhaps too fast. The stone almost seems to be trembling. Then something breaks. Menhir's power disappears in an instant. A chilling wail sounds in the air, coming from within the statue. Finally, the menhir itself begins to move. No. Something tries to move out of it. A dark, ethereal apparition with 4 arms and a 3-eyed mask.
Step back!
The maimed knight throws back the cloak, and for a moment you are blinded. Beside you stands a true knight of the Round Table. His armor, though several hundred years old and mended in many places, shines in the torchlight like a falling star. The sight of his face, part of it twisted by weird, and the other part pristine like a portrait of some ancient hero, makes you stop in your tracks. He raises his blade, honed in the fires of now lost homelands, and bellows,
I am Percival of the Round Table. Come at me, wretch!
The link between the apparition and the statue begins to fray as it springs toward the knight. Smaller shadows rise from the ground on both of its sides. He nods his head, raises his sword and steps towards the raging apparition, now connected to the men here with just one thin strand of pure magic. You stagger, the dying wails of Weirdspawn echoing under your skull. Red fog clouds your vision. You barely see Percival, falling to his knees and leaning heavily on his sword. Blood oozes from the gaps of his armor. The spirit screams one last time and reunites with the men here. The familiar feeling that everything is real and in focus returns. Weirdness melts in the air. Percival collapses into the mud at the feet of the men here. Swaying from side to side, you reach the knight. Now that the rags covering him are gone, you clearly see there are worse things than fresh, deep wounds on his body. The weirdness twisted his flesh and changed half of his face into a gruesome mask.
They called me the purest knight to ever sit at the round table. Look at me now.
He chuckles, choking on blood. People of Kuanacht left their homes, but they're too afraid to walk up to the men here. Instead, they watch from a safe distance and ignore your pleas.
Your people, they would ask for my protection. I couldn't offer it. My mission required me to be on the move, search your lands. For a while, yes, the relic jolted it to life. But it will fade again. You must carry on my mission. This wasn't supposed to happen. I have failed. Now you must carry it in my stead.
Percival's voice is fading fast.
In the old days, when archdruids still tended to the Miniers, there was a rite that kept the statues working. Only few knew it. I was to recover it.
His body begins to shake. You lean even closer.
To give Yvain time to deliver the Grail.
Percival's face grows more pale with his every forced breath. You see his hand reaching up.
Please, my mind is slipping away. Find the rites. Help Yvain.
People of the farmhold gather enough courage to walk up to the men here. You find it hard to believe not a single one of them tried to help you and Percival. Maybe the knight was right. Maybe you are this farmhold's last hope. You look at Percival's body again. Serene expression now frozen forever on his pale face. When a knight of the Round Table dies, people who found him are bound by law of the land to return his equipment and armor to Camelot, so that, in time, a new knight might take his place. You also have to ensure his burial. Some people raise the knight carefully. Soon you're left alone at the foot of the men here. Kuanacht and its vicinity are safe. For the time being, there are no more long-lost heirlooms to sacrifice or legendary knights to come to your aid. You feel you should discuss this with the rest of the people. As you look into the distance, you see weirdness receding. All Mother's followers are usually buried in the ground or burnt on funeral pyres. But in the homelands, far beyond the sea, nobility often raised magnificent tombs. Even though most capable artisans were either taken by the weirdness or left, people who were left behind do their best to create a monument befitting the legend. The monument stands proudly, dedicated to Sir Percival of the Round Table. They say the name Percival means the one who perseveres. If even a night like that fell, what hope is there for you and the remnants of Kuanacht? As the crowd begins to disperse to mourn and celebrate in the Mead Hall, you feel that you should join them and discuss the future with the rest of the people. Once the mourners begin to disperse, you realize there is one last thing left to do. All of the knight's belongings are still here, neatly packed in a large leather sack. The law requires you to return his armor to Camelot so that, in time, someone else may be called to take his place at the round table. A real homeland blade and a suit of steel armor could take you far on your journey, but even touching them would be considered a crime. Perhaps your travels will eventually take you to Camelot. An elder smith toils, chipping at the jagged edge of a giant weapon. The hammer he uses to break apart this ancient steel seems very strange, as does the sound it makes. When you approach, he greets you briefly and gets back to his work.
I've spent my life here. Why would I go anywhere else? Soon, weirdness will spread across Avalon, with no safe harbor anywhere. It would be better to die in my own home than be torn to pieces on the trail.
He looks proudly at the remains of his village.
And as you can see, I wasn't the only one to think that way. Oh yes, your people are so full of neighborly love. I swear I never heard them call us crooks and scoundrels. Thank you.
He points to the giant blade. Its cracked surface is as wide as your house. The smell of rust tingles your nose. You notice something gleaming high above in the distance. The sword's pommel, still plated in gold after all these years.
The only thing I know, I transform these stones and steel into weapons, armor, and trinkets no one buys anymore. The roads are closed, and you're the first living soul I've seen here since Donegal collapsed. Yes, a village west of here, when Erfir left on his insane expedition and took with him the last bits of knowledge on how to turn this material and mining into something of use. They became my only clients. I've heard they got rid of their master, but it didn't stop the weirdness from spreading. They did good though. A horrible bastard, that man. Of course I do. I'm a smith. What would you call someone who believes they're going to find the Grail and save Avalon? Mad, the lot of them, and especially Yvain. But enough chatter. I have work to do.
You wonder if you're the only one unaware of the real purpose of Lord Yvain's expedition. An elder smith when you were